You're not as tired as you think you are. That's not something you'd find on a motivational poster. That's neuroscience. And once you understand what's actually happening inside your brain every time you feel that heavy, drag yourself to the couch kind of tired, you're going to start questioning every time you've ever stopped doing something because you felt like you couldn't go on. Because your brain is not a perfect fatigue detector. It never was. It's a prediction machine, a very sophisticated, very well-meaning, and very frequently wrong prediction machine. And it has been lying to you probably for most of your life. Here's the part that changes everything. When you feel tired, you assume your body is running low on energy, like a phone sitting at 4% battery about to shut down. That's the intuition. That's what it feels like. But that is not what is actually happening. Your brain doesn't wait until you're genuinely depleted before it sends the tired signal. It sends it early, much earlier than you'd expect. Not because you're running out of fuel, but as a protective measure, a buffer. Your brain is essentially tapping you on the shoulder and saying, hey, slow down, just in case. Not because you're done, because it wants to make absolutely sure you never get there. Scientists call this the central governor theory. It was developed by exercise physiologist Tim Noakes after studying elite athletes who consistently pushed past what seemed like their physical limits. What he found was that the brain acts as a kind of regulator, a governor that pulls the brakes before you actually hit your ceiling, before your muscles are truly exhausted, before your energy stores are genuinely depleted. The brain calls it early to protect you, which means that the tired you feel at 3 p.m., the tired that makes you want to abandon your desk and lie face down on the couch and stare at nothing, that is not your body giving out. That is your brain being overprotective. That is a prediction, not a measurement. And predictions can be wrong. Which raises a genuinely uncomfortable question. If the tired signal arrives early, if it's conservative by design, how much are you leaving on the table every single day? Think about the last time something urgent happened. A deadline got moved up without warning. Someone you care about needed you immediately. An emergency kicked in that required your full attention. What happened to your fatigue? Suddenly you weren't tired anymore. The fog lifted. You found energy you were convinced you didn't have. Where did it go? It didn't disappear because your body magically recharged in 30 seconds. It disappeared because your brain reassessed the situation and decided that more was required. And it had more. It always had more. It was just holding it back until the situation justified releasing it. That is the tell. That is the thing that reveals everything. Tiredness is partly real and partly managed. Your brain is constantly making calculations about how much energy to give you based on what it believes the situation demands. Change the situation or change what your brain believes about the situation, and the tiredness shifts, sometimes dramatically. So what does this actually mean for you in your everyday life? Because understanding the theory is one thing, but you need to know what to do with it. The first thing that means is that most of what you label as tiredness is not physical fatigue at all. It's boredom, it's resistance, it's low motivation wearing a very convincing costume. When a task feels dull, unclear, or harder than you want it to be, your brain dials up the tired signal, not because your body needs rest, because your brain is trying to redirect you towards something that requires less effort, something easier, something more immediately rewarding. The fatigue you feel when you sit down to do something you've been avoiding isn't your body asking for rest, it's your brain asking for an exit. This distinction matters enormously because if you treat avoidance tiredness the same way you treat genuine physical exhaustion, you'll spend a significant portion of your life resting from things you were never actually depleted by in the first place. The second thing it means is that your environment is doing more to regulate your energy than sleep is. And most people have this completely backwards. You can sleep a full 8 hours and still drag yourself through the day feeling foggy and slow if your environment is cluttered, overstimulating, or loaded with low-grade background stress. And you can function on 6 hours of sleep and feel genuinely sharp if you're doing something that engages you in a space that supports focus, surrounded by conditions that your brain reads as high stakes and meaningful. Your brain regulates how much energy it releases based on context. It reads the room. Change the room, and you change the energy available to you. This is why some people feel exhausted after doing nothing all day and energized after a long day of work they care about. It's counterintuitive until you understand that the brain isn't measuring how much you've done, it's measuring how much it thinks you should have left. The third thing, and this might be the most practically useful, is that the first 5 minutes of any task are almost always a lie. That heavy, reluctant, this is gonna drain me feeling you get before you start something you've been putting off, that is your brain's prediction. It is not your body's reality. Your brain is estimating the cost of the task before you've even attempted it, and it consistently overestimates effort and underestimates your ability to handle that effort every single time, without fail. This is why so many people describe sitting down to do something they've been dreading, getting into it, and then looking up to realize 40 minutes have passed, and they feel fine. The predicted experience and the actual experience are completely different. But your brain never updates this pattern automatically. It keeps predicting the worst every single time you approach something difficult, unless you teach it otherwise by starting anyway. Now, here is where people get this wrong. None of this means you should push through genuine physical exhaustion. Real fatigue is real. Sleep deprivation is real. The consequences of ignoring actual physical depletion are real. This is not an argument for grinding yourself into the ground and calling it discipline.
The fix is more specific than that. The fix is learning to stop trusting the first signal without questioning it. When the tired feeling arrives, before you do anything else, pause and ask yourself one question. Is this physical or is this resistance? These two things feel similar on the surface, but they have completely different textures when you pay attention. Physical tiredness has weight to it. Heavy limbs, genuinely slow thinking, eyes that hurt, a body that responds even to small physical efforts with real strain. That kind of tired deserves rest, and you should give it rest without guilt.
Resistance tired is different. It's vague. It's a general reluctance without a clear physical source. It's a preference for the couch that exists independently of what your body actually needs. It often arrives exactly when you're about to do something difficult or uncomfortable. It shows up on cue. That is not a coincidence. That is your brain executing a pattern it has run many times before. If what you're feeling is resistance, the answer is not to rest. The answer is to not negotiate with it. Start the task. Not all of it, not perfectly, just start. Open the document, pick up the book, begin the first sentence of the email. Give it 5 minutes of genuine engagement. Because once you start, something happens inside your brain that cannot happen before you start. Your brain updates its prediction. It realizes the task is not as costly as it anticipated. The threat level drops, and the tired signal, quietly, without announcement, lowers.
This is not willpower. This is biology. You are not white-knuckling your way through. You are giving your brain the data it needs to revise an inaccurate forecast. If, on the other hand, the tiredness is genuinely physical, if your body is telling you something real, then rest. But rest properly, not half rest, not scrolling your phone while lying down, which keeps your brain in a state of low-level stimulation and prevents actual recovery. Not listening to a podcast at full volume and calling it downtime. Actual stillness. Eyes closed. Minimal input. 10 to 20 minutes of genuine quiet. Your brain recovers faster than most people realize when you give it real silence instead of a quieter version of stimulation.
The problem that keeps most people stuck is that they never make this distinction. They feel the first tired signal and they stop. No questions asked. Which means they operate day after day at whatever ceiling their brain has decided is safe. Not their actual ceiling, not their real capacity, just the predicted one, the conservative estimate, the early warning that was never meant to be the final word. And over time, this becomes a pattern. Your brain learns that you stop when it sends the signal, so it keeps sending the signal early, because early works. The ceiling gets reinforced. Your sense of what you're capable of narrows, not because your actual capacity changed, because you never pushed back against the prediction long enough for your brain to recalibrate.
The people who seem to have endless energy, who seem to get more done in a day than you get done in a week, are not operating on different biology. They are not sleeping better or eating some perfect diet that unlocked a secret reserve. They have, often without consciously knowing why,
learn to question the first signal. They have built the habit of starting before they feel ready, and their brain, over time, has adjusted its predictions upward because the data kept proving the early estimates wrong. This is learnable. This is a pattern you can interrupt, but it requires one thing that most productivity advice skips entirely. It requires you to get genuinely curious about what you're actually feeling, instead of just accepting the label tired and acting on it automatically.
Start paying attention. When the tiredness hits, get specific. Where do you feel it? Is it in your body or is it in your motivation? Is it asking for rest or asking for an exit? Has it arrived conveniently at the moment you are about to do something uncomfortable? Is it the same feeling you get on a Sunday morning when you have nowhere to be? Or is it the feeling you get when you sit down to face something you've been avoiding? The more precisely you can identify what's actually happening, the more accurately you can respond to it. And the more accurately you respond to it, the less energy you waste resting from things that never depleted you in the first place. You have more in you than your brain is letting on. That is not a motivational statement. That is a mechanical description of how your brain manages energy. The ceiling you've been living under is not your ceiling. It is your brain's best guess at a safe limit. And best guesses can be revised.
The question is not whether you have more capacity. You do. The question is whether you're willing to give your brain enough evidence to update its estimate. Whether you're willing to sit with the initial resistance long enough to let it pass. Whether you're going to keep stopping at the first signal or start asking whether that signal is telling you the truth. Your brain is lying to you about being tired. Not out of malice, out of caution. It is trying to protect you. But you don't need that much protection. You are more capable than the prediction. And the only way to prove that, to yourself and to your brain, is to start anyway. So the next time it tells you that you're too tired, ask it one question.
Are you sure?